Well, what's really happened is that the petitioners in this case deeply disappointed, especially in the kind of language that the judge, the constitutional bench used. It seemed it's going to be a very progressive verdict. But many would suggest that ultimately it came down to the letter of law, and that is what the court followed. Let's break it down. Let's cut across right now immediately. Joining me in the studio is my colleague Anisha. She was there in court today. What was a red letter day, Anisha, but at least the petitioners deeply disappointed. There is a sense of despondency which seems to emanate from the fact that this was a missed opportunity.
Well, definitely, Preeti. We've been speaking to the lawyers, we've been speaking to the petitioners. All of them are saying that, well, we were hoping that the court will go a little bit further than it did, especially with the minority verdict of the Chief Justice and Justice Kaul, talking about civil unions at least being given some sort of recognition in the country. That is where the hopes had been pinned, that something like that could be created. But even in that, we need to remember that the court has said that even if we do give recognition to something on the lines of a civil union, the actual rights, the actual regulations that the petitioners want a change in is something that will require legislative work to be done, because this will require change in multiple laws. But on a more hopeful note, the issue that the petitioners are also saying is that at least this conversation is happening. At least there is a recognition that we not only exist, but we deserve and we have fundamental rights of dignity, privacy, choice. And that is something, at least one step has been taken towards recognition.
You know, let's quickly bring in the petitioners, because they've been fighting the good fight for years now. Joining me is Harish Iyer, petitioner. He was a petitioner today, disappointed, I understand. Zainab Patel, petitioner, disappointed. Zainab, I want to begin with you. It's been a long, drawn-out battle where the fight for equal rights is concerned, especially when it came down to equality in marriage. What do you make of the judgment today, especially the kind of conversation that happened earlier in terms of what the Chief Justice of India said? But ultimately, do you only look at the fine print, which said not allowed?
Thank you. I think I'm going to just say something which might sound very harsh, but that is the truth and the reality. A lot of words were used, but very little meaning came out of those words. Very insightful, very wise words, but they are like wise words in an old book. My personal viewpoint is that the Supreme Court abdicated its responsibility towards the LGBTIQ community, although we do see some wins for the trans community and in some way an executive committee looking at some rights within the institutional framework of a partnership or a union. But again, that's subject to how the government is going to play it out. What is the time frame? What is the duration that would be required to set up something like this? But to be very frank, I just feel that here was this momentous occasion in the history of time to backroll any of the negativity that was thrown towards the community. And as someone who's been involved both in the Nalsa judgment as well as in the marriage equality case, I felt that this opportunity was lost. However, I'm not one of those who will get bogged down by this. My community is known to be strong and resilient. We will fight back. We will ensure whatever gains we make, there will be a larger outlay of this.
Zainab, I'm going to just come in for a minute, and the reason I'm doing so is because I know a lot of you are deeply disappointed. So many of our guests, you were going to have a lot of petitioners today. They're crushed, devastated in terms of what has happened today. But I want to ask you, looking at where the law stands, what did you think that the courts could have done better in terms of interpreting the law?
See, the only thing that I really expected today, without being too frivolous or too over-expectant about the court, was the fact that a clear roadway towards civil unions would have come true. I was expecting that as a minimum guarantee, considering the months of effort put by all of us in arguing our case. That was a real-time disappointment, because that framework is absolutely absent in any of the directions given by the Supreme Court in their 300-odd page order.
Right.